Good evening, everyone. This is Asian Movie Pulse Interviews. I'm Sean Barry, and tonight I am joined by actress, writer, and director Lin Chen. Lin has acted in many films, such as Saving Face, directed by Alice Wu, along with being one of the leads of the Surrogate Valentine trilogy starring Go Nakamura. She also notably made her directorial debut a few years ago, directing the third and final entry of the Surrogate Valentine trilogy titled I Will Make You Mine. How's it going, Lin?
Going well. How about you?
Going well myself.
Good.
Alrighty. So I guess to start things off, I just want to say that beyond acting, you are also known for being an active blogger covering a variety of topics such as food, fashion, traveling, and activism. And my question is your involvement in blogging just as rewarding for you as acting per se?
It's funny because I just recently started blogging again, kind of full time, because when I transitioned into directing and it took too much time. I took a break from blogging and I thought it was going to be a permanent break. I thought like, oh, I'm
Mm.
probably never going to blog or write again. I have to put all of my energy into narrative storytelling instead of making me the focus. And I was actually really looking forward to that. And then, of course, what happened was the pandemic. And then what happened was, lots of jobs drying up or not happening. And then I realized that blogging, even though, blogging has transitioned so much since when I started before there was even Instagram or Facebook. Um, it used to be like a real community. So, and everyone jokes like no one goes to blogs anymore. But really, it I think once I accepted that it wasn't going to be what it was once upon a time, I was able to really embrace the genre, I guess, of blogging. And I've been really into it. I've really found it to be therapeutic and a great way to create content, for lack of a better word, but to create, I guess, to have a creative outlet on a regular basis. And that to me is just so necessary. I had forgotten how necessary it was for me, because for a good portion of the last decade, I was blogging daily. And when I just stopped and took it away from me myself, I feel like a part of me sort of had forgotten and was unfulfilled in that way. And I found fulfillment obviously in writing and directing and acting, but there is something about being like it's almost like a documentary where you're just being so you're taking your own you become your own subject. And I guess, there's a part of that I thought was a little cringy, but now I
How
think,
so? How so
well, I
cringy?
think it's cringy in the sense that, like, in terms of like who really care, like the joke is, who really cares what you do? Who really cares like what you eat, what you wear, what you like, are you really that self-absorbed that you think like people care about that? But my point is that like I wasn't I've never done it from a place of like everyone look at me. It's always been about like I have something I really need to share with you and it's about peanut butter. And like it to me it's the most important thing at that moment, and I know it's not the most important thing obviously, but there is something about cutting through, at least like on the internet. There's so many people who will write about more serious subjects, and they're great, and that's for them. But for me, that's never been how I tell stories. I don't tell super serious political or um, heavy stories.
Hmm.
In general, that's why I like acting. I like using someone else's words to do that or having someone else direct me. But for myself, I'm a pretty lighthearted person. So for me, sharing that lighthearted content in a very passionate way is me. So that was my very long way of answering. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no
I'm
worries.
a blogger. I'm a blogger.
It must feel good to get back into it more regularly again after, a long hiatus.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is so many people I had forgotten, like, I guess a lot of people, because I used to blog about eating disorders and food, and so many people had used my blog as like a therapeutic um method of coping with their own eating disorder. So like there are people who are reading who I've known, for known for a long time, and there's like this almost like familial feeling of oh, you're back, like that cousin or that person I grew up with in high school, like you knew me when I was at my worst, or I knew you when I was at my worst, and here we are again. So there's something really lovely about that, because filmmaking and narrative storytelling just takes forever. It just takes so
True.
long. And I think that's part of what is so fulfilling. It's so immediate and so visceral, and it also teaches me to not be so attached to things that take
Mm.
a really long time and then sort of get forgotten. Sometimes that's really hard. That's really heartbreaking when you spend 2 years of your life on something and then it's like done in 2 minutes.
It's
And
bittersweet. There's like something bittersweet about it.
yeah. And so then there's something about like a video that I made in like 5 years ago that took 4 hours that still people write to me about. So I just think, I don't know, it makes me take all of it a little less seriously. Because this life and this industry is really harsh.
That's fair. So it's also, in a way, it's always going to be like, in a way, blogging is always going to, in a way, be part of your career.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe at some point I'm gonna be like, this is silly and stop again. But I have to say, I have always loved having, it's almost like my version of scrapbooking. Because
Hmm, good
whenever I
comparison.
blog about something, I remember it. Like even if I didn't blog about the museum we saw, if I blog about like what I wore that day or what I ate for breakfast, somehow like that snapshot remains in my brain and I'm able to take it back, right away.
Mhm.
Whereas like everything else just feels like it's floating in the air. And I'm not able to really anchor it someplace. So I love having that.
Fantastic. And do you still see yourself blogging going forward at this moment?
Well, right now I do. Like it's sort of it's interesting. I wouldn't say I'm trying to make a career of it at all, because been there, done that. Like it's not
Hmm.
something I'm particularly interested in, but as of now, like I don't know, writer strike is going on, SAG-AFTRA
Yeah,
go on strike. Like
yeah.
it's been a tough year. And at the very least, it's keeping me creative in a way that jogs and greases the other creative wheels. Like this morning, I got myself to write a new scene for a script I've been working on for a while, and I haven't been wanting to work on the script for a while, And I promised myself, you get to edit your makeup tutorial video in the afternoon if you write for 30 minutes. That's all you have to do. And that was like my reward, and it really like got me like, oh, I really want to edit that makeup video. So I sat down, I set my timer, and I wrote for an hour. So yeah, I think like it is like the practice of doing something on a regular basis. So and I had the same attitude about blogging and creating content before. 2 years ago I was like, why would I want to take out my camera and film myself, putting on eye makeup? Like, why would I want to do that? And now I'm like, I can't wait. I'm so excited. So who knows like how the muse will strike and in what form.
But that's great, and we can only hope for the best in the future going forward, especially with the ongoing writer's strike right now.
That's right.
Absolutely. Now, regarding you mentioned creative efforts, this is, I think, a good way to transition into a lot of your acting roles. And regarding acting, a role that has garnered you a lot of attention and praise is your role as one of the leads in Alice Wu's Saving Face. And how did your involvement in this picture come about, and what was the overall experience like for you?
I feel really, for lack of a better word, blessed, hashtag blessed, about Saving Face. Because I really didn't know any better at the time. It was my very first feature film. It was my first leading role. And it was, the first of a lot of things. And because of that, I went into it feeling so um excited and grateful and just really soaking up every moment of it. And I really had no idea that A, it was going to stand the test of time, and B, I also didn't know that most movies were not so well executed. I just didn't know.
Mm.
So it's a blessing in the sense that like I got to have that as my first experience, because then I knew how good it could be. Because the rejection that followed soon after, um, it was almost like I could hold on to the memory of and the experience of Saving Face as proof that it was possible. Um, because I'm a spoiled kid. Like I grew up acting, like I was like, what do you mean? They're not all roles are like juicy and complex and fun and you like are respected and like all of that. Like I might have just thrown in the towel a lot sooner. Um, had it not been such a great experience and such a great movie, because all these movies later that I've done, it's rare to have both of those things: a great experience, a great script, a great director, a great response. It's rare. And so I think for a while after the initial, Saving Face was launched and people were really crazy about it, and I think like the first like few years I was like, but I want to do like something else. I want like other, I want other Saving Faces. I don't want people to just know me as saving as Vivian. People
You
were calling
want
me Vivian all the time.
variety.
Yeah, I wanted like other things to like. I remember my manager at the time had said like, this is a great calling card for you. And I was like, I want more than just a calling card. I want like I want a full-bodied resume, like I want it to be really full. And I think over the years, I do feel like I've had other great experiences, the Surrogate Valentine series being one of them. But it's been so I know how rare it is now and how special it is. And because of that, and I know not every actor gets that. And so I'm just grateful that people love the movie as much as they do, that it's something that still brings people joy. And like it's weird that like back in the day when it came out, it did not have, I mean, people loved it, but like it did not have the impact that it still has today. You wouldn't know that back then that it would have stood the test of time, because it
Mhm.
was always being lumped in with other lesbian or Asian American films. And
Right.
now it's Saving Face. It's Saving Face, and I'm a part of that,
Mhm.
and that's incredible. That's really incredible.
Absolutely. It totally is incredible. And it seems like from everything you described that your experiences during Saving Face are what helped in a way make you more comfortable and with acting going forward? Because as you said, you wanted more variety after that. You had fun, but you wanted more, like something
Yeah.
different, rather
Yeah.
than just, being typecast.
Yeah, I mean, like I can't tell you how many dancer, lesbian, doctor roles I was going in for after that. Um, but also, it's not like I was booking them. I've never been, there's been very rare times in my career where I've like flat out said no to an offer. I'm somebody who almost always tries. Like
Mhm.
like let's just see where this goes. And so maybe that's a mistake, maybe it's not, but I just haven't been the type of actor in my decades of acting that is just like choosy with their roles. Because and I think this like applies to blogging too. It's that like letting go of the preciousness of things, of like needing everything to be perfect. There's a reason blogs are not as revered as like magazine articles or books, because a lot of it is just, it feels disposable in a lot of ways. And so I think there's something about like acting in something that you feel isn't important, um, that later on you think to like, is it regret? I don't think so. I think it's, again, part of this like full resume that I've been able to experience a lot of different types of genres and experiences. And is one better than the other? I really don't know, because they all brought me to where I am today, and I feel like I'd be sitting in the same place today had I chosen to do them or not, honestly.
And that's wonderful when you really look at it at the big picture. And speaking of your acting career, you've had a very productive acting career going forward, because going forward from Saving Face, you ended up working with directors like Dave Boyle and Emily Ting. And another role, speaking of the Surrogate Valentine trilogy, another role that has garnered you a lot of praise is your part as one of the leads in the Surrogate Valentine trilogy, Rachel, in which you play the primary love interest of Go Nakamura in those films. Now, filmmaker Dave Boyle directed, of course, Surrogate Valentine and Daylight Savings, but you made your directorial debut with the trilogy's finale, I Will Make You Mine. But to go back a little bit, having worked with Dave Boyle prior to this on the film White on Rice, which is, a more of a blatant comedy, were you initially surprised that your next collaboration with Dave was a little more of a dramatic role, considering that Dave primarily started off directing more comedic movies?
Well, I feel like there's a lightness to Dave, even when he is doing even like a movie like Man from Reno, where it's definitely a genre. There's always like a little bit of, I just like his little thumbprint is right there, and that thumbprint is comedic. And so I knew that it wasn't like going to be that much of a stretch in terms of like how we work together. Also, Dave and I have like a shorthand with one another, and that always has been the case with us. So I like, he doesn't have to really say too much for me to understand what he means. And um, I don't know. Dave is he's such a great guy. Like, just as I've gotten to know him over the years, like first as like an actor who is being directed to him, and then him like literally becoming my mentor, my filmmaking mentor. And
Mhm.
like I've known him since he was like, in my eyes, like a kid. Like he had just graduated and was making,
Little Dave.
yeah, yeah. And like now he's giving me like advice about, it's just, I find like throughout our relationship and how we communicate with one another, I just think he is, this isn't answering your question, by the way. I'm like just gushing about
No,
Dave.
no, it
but
totally is answering. You're
but
you're totally in a way answering it so far.
well, like I feel like I could, like, Dave could ask me to do anything. Dave could be like, "Hey, Lynn, could you come over and make a pizza, even though I know you're gluten free? You come over and like cook a pizza, full on flour, and then maybe eat it on camera. Like he would never ask me to do that, but like if he did,
And then blog about it.
I'd be like, I trust you, Dave. I trust you. I know you're going to make it work. And there's something that also is rare. That also is a rare thing to have in terms of relationships in this industry, where you trust somebody's taste and how they value you as a human being and as an artist. I have that with Dave, and that is precious because, again, so rare in this industry, to have people who you not only align with creatively, but like as people. That's hard.
That's fair. It is hard, but hey, that's wonderful. Um, Now, to go back to the Surrogate Valentine trilogy, there was a noticeable gap after Surrogate Valentine was finished, and then the second entry, Daylight Savings. There was a pretty noticeable gap between the production of Daylight Savings and I Will Make You Mine. And was there a point that you originally believed that maybe the story was going to remain open-ended? And did you ever think you would end up directing the finale of the trilogy?
I oh, no, I never thought I was going to end up directing it. That I'll just answer that flat out. No, never, ever, ever imagined that happening. But the noticeable gap, we all noticed it. Like I noticed it. Ye Ming noticed it. Everyone noticed it. Because the last we had heard, there was a cliffhanger at the end of the second movie. And when we were doing press for it, Dave said that it was going to be the lowest budget trilogy ever made. So I assumed there was going to be a third somewhere down the line. And the reason it came up was because right before I was about to go hiking with Dave and his wife, I found one of the DVDs and it said trilogy on it. And I thought to myself, I'm not doing anything next year. Let's finish this trilogy, you know? And when I brought it up, it was like Dave was like, oh, I never told you that's never going to be a trilogy. I like in his mind, he's like, that's not gonna happen. Because like in my mind, it was still like, oh, a possibility, not like maybe, but like when is it going to happen? You know? And when he said that, I like my heart just like broke because I was like, it's too good. It's too good to just, you know, I was a fan of it. And I wanted to know what happened with Go. And I'm also like a completist. I'm somebody who has email inbox zero. So I like to me, it drove me as crazy as like glancing at my husband's phone and seeing he has like 400 emails. Like to me, I was just like, no. We have to do something about it. We must try to do something. And when he said, I'll let you direct it, I was sort of like, again, it was like, he was like, Lynn, let's make a pizza. I was like, okay, let's do it. And not knowing at all how and how it was going to happen, when it was going to happen, but I don't know, I just had something in me that was like, let's make this happen. And I'm really proud that we did. I'm really proud that we made it happen. That said, this theme keeps coming up. So rare. Like it was like I knew a magic wand was being waved in front of me and I was like, I'm going to grab that magic wand. And I'm so glad that I did. And I think I knew the entire time it was happening how special it was. And that I couldn't be using it as like a way to become a filmmaker or using it as anything other than like, this is the opportunity to finish the story. that I want to finish telling. It was like as simple as that. And I knew that I was the best person to tell the story, because once he had given me his blessing, and once I sat down to write it, and once I realized Ghost Story's done, like, the reason it hasn't come to fruition is because the story as he tells it is done. But there's just so much we don't know about these three women who were in his life. And I just, we like, the world was changing. Me Too had happened, I believe, or was about, like things were feeling like there was a shift. And I just
Hmm.
felt like a woman needs to tell these women's stories. And I am the only one who's been around since the beginning. So if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be me. And it was interesting because, the movie ended up being so much about aging. And so
Mm.
there's just no way that this movie could have happened right after daylight savings, even if I was directing it. It just wouldn't have been the same story. And so I think it all sort of happened when it was supposed to happen and how it was supposed to happen.
Absolutely. And it turned out to be like a really well received finale. Like it was like considered like the perfect way to end, you know, the trilogy. Um, and regarding you taking over in the director's chair, I have to ask, what was it like having the task of directing, writing, producing, and starring in I Will Make You Mine? Because that is a lot to juggle.
I tried not to really think about all of it, but again, because you know, Dave and Mai and Emily and Kathy, they are my producing team. They all really just like were like, we support you and we got your back. And so I felt safe in the same. I compare it to when you go to the same family reunion every single year, and you grow up like eating everyone else's food, and then it's your turn. It always comes back to food with me. And then it's your turn to cook in the kitchen, right? And so you
Mhm.
basically know what people want to eat, you basically know where the pots and pans are, but you've never done it yourself. So it's just a matter of like, because I felt safe, because we had so many of the original cast and crew, that it was just like, I felt safe being like, everyone knows this is my first time. So if people are upset, then I was like, then just tell me so we can fix it. Whereas I don't think that would happen in most first time filmmaker situations where you're not as familiar with everyone, because you just want,
Mhm.
maybe you have something to prove. I did not feel like I had anything to prove at all. I just really wanted to tell the story um, properly and in the best way possible. And if that meant like somebody saying to me, you're doing this completely wrong, this is the way it needs to be done, I would think about it and be like, okay, you're absolutely right. So it was not as intimidating, I think, had it not been something that I had already been so familiar with. I think if it had been
Mm.
any other kind of situation, um, that would have been really hard also to act in it. Um,
Mhm.
and I also learned that I don't enjoy producing. So that had
Uh,
off, and I won't be doing that again. I mean, never
fair
say
enough.
that I don't plan on doing it again.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, Now, an aspect of what makes the Surrogate Valentine trilogy so engaging is its raw approach to human vulnerability, especially apparent in the finale. Um, Now, I actually talked quite a bit about this when had Ayako on here. Um, you've remarked that you based many scenes in I Will Make You Mine on personal experiences, especially with the way that Erica, played by Ayako Fujitani, goes through in certain scenes of the movie. Was directing those moments in a way comforting for you?
Yes. I mean, there are specific scenes that when I wrote them because I knew I had to translate it artistically. Like when my father died, I went to go buy a dress at the mall, and I remember it being such a horrible experience that
Mm.
the only thing that got me through it was thinking, that's a movie scene one day. And then when I wrote it into the film and we filmed it, it was like, again, in box zero, did it. I completed it. Like I wanted to make that into a scene and I did. And, um, I used my father's photo in the funeral scene. The urn we used was so similar to his urn. Um, a, a lot of it, the whole movie is dedicated to him. I don't think the movie could have even been made if it hadn't been for my father's death. So I just feel like he was like a tremendous muse for me, for sure.
Mm.
Um, and it definitely helped me process a lot of the grief that I had been feeling about
Mm.
his death. And
It was like
because
acceptance in a way.
well, because my father's death was so unexpected and sudden, and so it was a way for me to make sense, a little bit of sense, and like do something with all of that pain. So and lucky for me, Ayako just like knocked it out of the park each and every time. It's like I barely had to direct her. Like like she would just do it, and
Hmm.
she's got it. So therefore it was like like watching a movie. I could just sit back and like and let the tears fall as I was watching her cry. And yeah, definitely a very cathartic experience getting to do that.
And now it feels in a way that it's all come like full circle, and now you feel like, in a way, this might sound weird, at ease now. Like,
I do. I mean, it's interesting. I once I finished the movie, I had already like written so much about my father's death. I blogged about it. I had blogged it in real time as it was happening, and that had been like such a great way for me to grieve, but also feel connected to others and a community. And
mhm.
so I had thought I had done all the talking that I needed, all the processing one would need to do about your father's death. I thought I had done it. But once I did this, it was almost like I was like, and now I'm officially done. Like I'm officially done talking about my dead father. Um, I think I am. I really do. And that's okay because I do feel like I could go on and do, but the story's been told. Like I don't need to keep doing it. And I think that's good. I think that's
You're
healthy.
ready to move on.
Yeah. Now I'll be talking about my mom issues instead. You know.
Uh, um, are you interested in directing more in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I directed a short film last year that I did not act in. I that I wrote and directed called Stage Kids, and I'm definitely interested in directing more. But if I'm going to be completely honest, and I think I should be completely honest, what you hear about things being difficult for women over 40 who are women of color,
Hmm.
about it being difficult, it's not only true, but it's like it's really sad. It's like really it's ultra sad. It's
Yeah,
ultra sad
it
because
is.
not only is it true and you know it's wrong, the people on the other side know it's wrong too. But their hands are tied and you can see them trying. You can see them trying with these diversity programs. You can see them trying by like trying to help um make meetings happen, but like at the end of the day, it feels like David and Goliath in a lot of ways.
Um,
Like, and so it's just it's really hard. Um, it's really hard. I'd like to, I'd love to, but I'm just going to be realistic. as a woman over the age of 40 who's a woman of color. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm going to get that opportunity. I really don't. And that's a hard thing to say, because not only because it's vulnerable and because it's like it feels a little pessimistic, but at the same time, like I I just want to be realistic. Like I want to tell my truth also. And all these rejections and all of these like hurdles doesn't mean I'm gonna stop. It doesn't mean that by any means.
Mhm.
But it does mean that I just don't know if it's going to happen. And I need to be okay with that. The same way, like as an actress, there was like, as I've aged out of roles, like I never got to play in when I first graduated, I was like, I want to play a cheerleader because I never got to be a cheerleader in high school. I really hope I play a cheerleader. And then like, when I turned 25, I was like, I'm never going to play a cheerleader. Oh no. Like like unless it's in like some fantasy like where she goes back in time. Like some
There's
back
always
to
voice acting. Voice acting.
That's true. That's true. But then it became like, oh, I would love to play a bride. I did actually play a bride in White on Rice, but like I never got to
Mhm.
actually have like the I do scene, like never got to do that. And now I feel like I'm aging out of that, and never got to play like a mom giving birth. I know I still look young, but like it still hasn't happened. Then I have to accept like that might not happen. Now, like with directing, it is just so much it's so much harder than acting, because so much of it is in a lot of ways it feels very personal, especially when you're directing things that you write and stories that you have created, and it takes so much longer. So all that said, my very long answer to your question is I would absolutely love to write and direct again, and I hope to do it, and I'm trying to do it, but I really don't know if it's ever going to happen again. And that is both scary and sad, but also like I think if I can do anything for anyone watching, it's to model that it's okay. Because like I don't know, it's okay. It's okay to want to do something and maybe never being able to do it. I did get to do it. I got to do it twice, like, and is that good enough? For some people, maybe, but like for me, I do want more, but who knows?
Well, hopefully things do change for the better because there is still a lot of things, especially in the film industry, that definitely need to be changed for the better. I mean, especially with the ongoing writer's strike. Um, and I guess one of my final questions before we wrap this up, Lynn, is you kind of already touched upon it, but what is your current feelings on the state of the film industry right now?
Well, that's such a difficult question, because we're in the thick of a very bad situation. It's like almost
Yeah.
like it's like it's like being at an empty buffet and like knowing what it could be very well, but it's not open for
Mm,
quite some time, and you're hungry. You're very hungry. So it's the current state coming from the person who's hungry is not good. Now, the person on the other side prepping the meals, putting it together, sneaking a few bites, they're fine. They're satisfied. It's not so bad. In fact, it's gotten a lot better, hasn't it? In a lot of ways. So I think where I am at today, having had as much of a rough year as I've had, as many people have had, um, I would say that the writer strike and the impending other strikes that are happening are very much warranted, because I think the direction we're going in is not great. And I don't, it's strange because on the one hand, I've been acting and performing and in this industry for many decades, four decades. I've been doing this since I was 5 years old. So, and I've been asked so many times, like, about what it's like for Asian actors. And I was acting when there were no Asian actors, And so, yeah, things are so much better for Asian actors. You didn't ask that question, but like, in terms of like optics, so much better. So much better. Look at the Oscars this past. So much better, right?
Parasite.
That said, it's then if that's the case, then how come so many of my colleagues are having the worst years of their lives? Why is that? If that's really the case, is it that like for those select few, for that handful who work constantly, that it's really good for them? I don't know. And I'm in a place where I'm trying to create for Asian Americans in a way that I've always tried to tell stories that are complex and diverse and focus on more than just what we look like and how we were brought up. But I'm being told that that's not what people want to see. And I know that's not true. So how come I'm being told that, So that's like, the question is, it's hard to answer today. It's hard to answer today. And I think it would honestly be different if I had like a movie coming up that I was prepping for. It just would be. And so when you're coming from a place of famine rather than abundance, it's hard. Keep saying hard, but it is. It's so much of this it feels difficult right now. And so much of movie making is about perseverance through difficulties. So much of this life and this industry is about perseverance and grit. And so I will leave you with that the state is not great. However, our coping mechanisms and our community are pretty strong, I think. And so we'll get through this and it'll cycle through and there'll be other moments, but I do think that it's important to share when things are tough.
Absolutely.
It's really easy when you're like promoting something or when you're on like the other side of things and you can talk about the hard times because they're in the past and everything's fine now. But when you're like actually in it, you need to know how to get to the other side. And sometimes it's just a matter of like being like, I think there's going to be land eventually, because there will be, but you still gotta keep swimming.
Gotta keep pushing forward, and
Yeah.
eventually, good things will come.
Yeah,
Just gotta keep fighting the good fight.
exactly.
Well, Lynn, thank you so much for saying all of that. I feel like I'm happy you got to say all that, and thank you so much for being on the show to
Sure.
talk about this.
Thank you for having
Um,
me that opportunity.
of course, of course. Last question, Lynn, are there any upcoming projects you want to promote?
Yeah, I want to promote my blog.
Go for it.
I have several. I would love for people to read the Yellow Pages, which is on Substack. And that is a weekly curated list of recommendations from not only myself, but other artistic and notable Asian American figures. Just recommending art and culture and news. And then I have a almost daily blog, a fashion and beauty lifestyle blog called Gen X Taste, also on Substack. So that's what I'm like up to. I'm creating videos and making that happen, and also just writing and hoping to sell a TV show or a movie that I've already written somewhere down the line.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Alrighty. And for those who are looking to explore Lynn's filmography, Saving Face is available to stream on Amazon Prime, and so is the entire Surrogate Valentine trilogy. And definitely also consider giving some of her other works a shot, as including White on Rice and Go Back to China, directed by Emily Ting. Well, Lynn, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you all for tuning in. And this is Asian Movie Pulse Interviews, tuning out.